Good afternoon. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to this, we hope, very interesting and engaging discussion we're going to have about the Innovation Corridor in Northeast Reading. Lots of exciting stuff to learn. I'm Dave Myers. I'm the director of the Berks Alliance, and we host these periodic spotlight programs on things of interest and importance to the broad community. So we want to thank you for joining us. I'm going to turn it over quickly to John Weidenhammer, who's the chair of the Berks Alliance, for a brief welcome as well. John.
Hi, Dave. Thanks so much, and good afternoon, everybody. I want to thank Dave for his efforts to organize this presentation today, which I think is going to be super, super interesting, and I'm very much looking forward to it. I also want to thank our able presenters who are going to be taking us through this really interesting topic. And I'm kind of thinking that to a degree, the Northeast Innovation Corridor is kind of one of the best kept secrets in Berks and Reading. But the work that's being done here, I really think is extraordinary. And I'm so pleased to be able to showcase it, have others showcase the work that's being done here, because I think it's really remarkable and important work that's being done. So for those of you that have been on these presentations before, hopefully you know by now that the Berks Alliance really is a community development organization, and we're focused on improving the health, wealth, and education attainment of the community. And most importantly, we try to bring topics that we think are of interest to the community, because in many regards, like this one, they're transformational to the way things work in Greater Reading. So again, I appreciate everybody being with us today. So I'll turn it back to Dave, and again, thank our presenters. Dave, take it away.
Thank you, John. We really appreciate people coming to attend these programs. We think they're important. We think this one in particular is going to be very, very interesting. What we'd like to do is have you leave your camera on so we can see that we're dealing with live people, but mute your microphones so that we're not getting a lot of background noise that can interfere with the program. We asked you to use the chat function at the bottom of the screen to submit your comments and questions. We will get to those after we get done with our formal presentations. I can see a couple of people that I'm going to call on to talk briefly when we get done as well. Hi, Jen. As we mentioned, we do record it. We will send a recording to everybody. Our presenters have said that it's okay to send the PowerPoints that they're going to be using, so we will share those with everybody as well. And if we don't get through all the comments and questions, we will compile them and send them to our presenters and have them respond and get them back to everybody. So with that, welcome on this beautiful spring day, finally springtime. We're glad to have you here. We hope this is an interesting topic and that you will enjoy it. We're going to start the program. I'm going to introduce the president of Albright College, Jackie Fetro, and I think the proper title is vice president and the head of the Total Experience Learning Program at Albright College, to launch our program. So Jackie and Adele Shade, to you.
Thank you. Thank you, Dave, and thank you, John. We're very happy to be here today. I'd like to confirm, can you all see my slide in slideshow mode?
Yes? Not yet. We're just seeing you. So try to share again, Jackie.
Okay, try to share again. Try that.
Here it comes, I think.
And here it comes.
There we go. We got it.
How about that? Is that
yes?
Is that better?
Perfect.
Yep.
Perfect.
Okay. All right. So really pleased to be here today with Adele Shade and to be joined by Tim and Steve to talk about the Innovation Corridor of Reading. As John says, John, I don't want this to be the best kept secret. The Innovation Corridor is a term that Adele and I coined to put a name and a sense of place and an image in people's heads when they think about Northeast Reading. I think of as one of the best areas of Reading, but I live here, so I'm a little biased by that. What we want to create is a community where people live, learn, work, and play. So where people have a walkable, livable neighborhood that is affordable, where you can go from pre-K to graduate and lifelong learning in the same neighborhood, where you can work and where you can play. The Albright College, the Albright Total Experience Learning Center, the Reading School District STEM Academy, and Habitat Humanity are all anchors. We're all working to build this area that we're calling the Innovation Corridor here in Northeast Reading. And there's really a lot of opportunity here. I know sometimes when people go into an area of a city and they say, okay, we're going to develop this into a neighborhood, you think about, okay, well, we're going to have to build things like maybe a pharmacy or a supermarket or places for people to live. But we have a lot of that already here, from the Albright College resources of our athletic facilities and other opportunities, cultural and theater events, to the business and industry resources, where you have places to eat and buy food and go to the drugstore right here in Northeast Reading. We don't have to build those. They are already here. In Northeast Reading, one of the anchors here is Albright College. We've been here since the 1920s, so we are a long time anchor institution in the city of Reading. What Albright College is known for, just to remind everybody, is that our longtime mission is a high quality education for students of the middle and working classes. And we are a national leader in social mobility and socioeconomic growth of our graduates. And that's not just me as the president saying that, but we are a high quality education. So Albright College is ranked number 146 in US News and World Report National Liberal Arts Colleges ranking. We've moved up over 50 spots in the last 4 years. We are also ranked by US News and World Report for social mobility number 31, meaning we successfully enroll and graduate what US News and World Report calls economically disadvantaged students. We are ranked by the National Bureau of Economic Research's Mobility Scorecard, our graduates, and this is the data over here. The top row says what kind, oops, I'm not pointing to my right screen here, what kind of students attend Albright College. And you can see that this indicates that it's the students of the middle and working classes. But 15 years after they graduate, we are among the top. The green indicates that we are among the top of selective private colleges where students have moved. So for median income, for moving up 1, 2, or 3 socioeconomic quintiles, we are among the top of selective private colleges for doing that. And that's the National Bureau of Economics Mobility Scorecard. And we also know that Albright College graduate earnings outpace the median earnings for private, public, and for-profit institutions across the country. So a nationally recognized leader in socioeconomic mobility and high-quality education here in Northeast Reading. That is one of the anchors. We're also working to rebuild and restructure what has been a traditional liberal arts college to meet the needs of today's workforce. So the Board of Trustees has recently approved the School of Business and Professional Studies, which not only expands our very popular undergraduate business programs, but it will offer accelerated undergraduate programs for the non-traditional learners. It offers graduate programs in applied psychology, business, athletic leadership, and more, and a number of certificate programs. And then with all the success that we've seen with total experience learning, the board is also, and the need for improvement of teacher education and teacher training. The board has recently approved on the School of Educational Innovation, which will focus on expanding what we have already done, offering our pre-K-12 programs, our college and graduate programs, including doctoral programs, and teacher professional development. And Adele will tell you more about that. We are currently discussing what is more our traditional arts and sciences programs and how we might realign those and restructure those to better meet the needs of today's students, including and particularly some of our nationally recognized programs like game and simulation development, theater, and fashion, which are nationally recognized for the opportunity that they offer students. And Melissa Wells, could you mute your microphone, please? Thank you. So that is the Innovation Corridor and Albright College as an anchor institution. Another strong piece of this is Albright's partnership with Total Experience Learning. And for this, I'm going to turn it over to my colleague, Adele.
And hello, everyone. And what I'm going to talk about is the integration of Total Experience Learning through Innovation Corridor. And the idea of Innovation Corridor and the name, the reason Jackie and I kind of coined this term is because we wanted this area of the city to have its own feel, its own culture, its mindset. That when people enter this area, they know that they'll be supported in these creative, innovative processes, be surrounded by support systems to do that in an ecosystem. And to have a true, well-developed ecosystem that needs to include our pre-K to 12th grade schools, and not just the students in those schools, but also the educators and administrators in those schools. So that's kind of the big overarching focus, and why Total Experience Learning becomes kind of its own framework behind Innovation Corridor. So as you look at the slide that's in front of you, what Total Experience Learning does is supports students with programs, and there's a list of programs there, from after school and summer programs to during school academies and trainings and workshops. And then there's the educator and administrator piece of Total Experience Learning, which allows us to expand our reach and support the professionals in our pre-K to 12 school districts. And so the educator programs can look very different, from undergraduate degrees in the new School of Educational Innovation for the teacher pipeline, to actual educator and administrator talent retention services with graduate courses, professional development, and truly creating our school districts as employers of choice for educators. That's the goal, to show that our school districts here in Berks County can put supports in place for professionals that don't exist in many other areas. So the educator piece right now for Total Experience Learning and Albright is in 14 of the 18 Berks County school districts. The last piece you see there is the community outreach piece. And the top bullet is something Jackie will expand on a bit later in the presentation, but a very new happening, which is Berks County's first high science and tech proof of concept incubator that is going to be wet labs, meaning the equipment, the ability to build from intellectual property in a high science and tech actual lab space coming to Innovation Corridor. So Jackie, if you could go to the next slide. Some of what we're seeing with Total Experience Learning in our school districts, which again, if you want to think about a vibrant community that can attract residents and visitors and all of those things, the K to 12 schools play a large part in the mindset of folks. One of the things we're studying right now through the year is the data coming back from our school districts in Berks and how Total Experience Learning is affecting some of those classrooms. So this is a snapshot of one classroom for what's called TXPL. When I say TXPL, that means Total Experience Learning. And what you can see with the two tables, if you look at the bottom row in each one, is that there was a difference in 1 year from classrooms that used TXPL and classrooms that did not. This data that you're looking at is for English as second language students, and the WIDA exam is something they take every year to see their progress during their school year. And you can see the difference in bottom row of the top table. Reclassification means that they're testing out of certain services they're actually going to need. Huge increase in percentage there of students that could reclassify. And the bottom table was for mathematic assessment preparation in another assessment called iReady that the school districts use. But if you compare the point increase from one classroom to the other, you can see some of what's happening in the districts with test scores, which we also know isn't the most important thing in education. And our school districts are bringing data back to us now to show other things that TXPL is affecting, like behavior issues going down, attendance going up, teacher job satisfaction. That is a real challenge in any educational institution, and how much more supported they feel when these networks of total experience learning are around them. So Jackie, you can go to the next slide, please. One of the things I know I've talked to this group before about is what we're seeing when you change the way classrooms and schools and systems operate is the creativity we can see come out of students. And I always preface this slide with saying intellectual property is not the end goal of total experience learning. We're not going into schools saying we're going to make everyone a patent holder by the end. But this is a very positive byproduct of setting up great educational environments. And one byproduct we're seeing are patents from students before they leave high school. The young lady you're looking at here in the slide to the left, her name's Nikita. She graduated from Wilson High School last year. She's at RTI now. She had 3 patent applications. She's now successfully got 2 of those approved. And 2 weeks ago, if you look at the picture all the way on your left, she's now a finalist in the New York State business plan competition for starting her company for those patents, where she made a pharmaceutical patch that releases drugs over 30 days. So again, not the goal that we're going to get every kid in Berks County to this point, but if you think about Innovation Corridor, it's the culture, it's the mindset, it's the supports, and for science and technology, it's the facilities and the equipment that have to be there for students or our residents to be able to make intellectual property of this type. And Jackie, if you go to the next slide, we see this with an exclamation point from the Brookings Institute, of a report that comes out from Washington every 3 years. This is the latest report. And what this shows is the intellectual property and R&D supports in the state of Pennsylvania and where they sit. And if you look at the map and look at the darker blue areas, that's where most of the IP in Pennsylvania resides. And this graph, this pie graph, I think is even more telling. So this shows you by percentage where that research and development and IP support is, and that is Pittsburgh, Philadelphia State College, which means Berks County is that little yellow piece that has the 1.3% above it, but so is every other area of the state of Pennsylvania, aside from Pittsburgh, Philadelphia, and State College, which is Penn State. And what this report, it said it 3 years ago, and it's saying it again to us now in this updated version, is that in Pennsylvania, if we don't start to find and support the talent that can invent and create in all of that 1.3 little sliver, that our economy is at its stalemate and can't grow because we've already maximized those other three spaces. We need the rest of the state participating and supporting our innovation. So Jackie, if you go to the next slide. And that really, if you put the pieces together I just spoke of, that's the motivation behind Innovation Corridor. And I'm going to turn it over to Jackie now to talk about how the supports, facilities, and equipment are important in this.
Yes, thank you, Adele. So exactly what Adele said, our goal here is for Berks County to be a leader in the development of those spaces in between Pennsylvania as identified by the Brookings Institute report. Our goal here is a centerpiece of this, besides Albright College and the Total Experience Learning Center and our athletic facilities and all the other pieces. The centerpiece of this would be the Camp Hosiery building, the old industrial building that Albright owns. It's behind our athletic facilities. And over time, this is not going to happen tomorrow, but turning that into an innovation and design center, which would be the centerpiece of Reading's innovation corridor. That would include the headquarters for Total Experience Learning, because we need a headquarters, a significant one that's going to be recognized, because we are beginning to expand our programs well beyond the Berks County borders. Product differentiation for our most creative and well-known programs. As Adele said, intellectual property development, that's all part of innovation and design, as well as being a world-class leader in teacher education and leading the way in Pennsylvania for the development of innovation in those spaces in between. Taking that down a level, what we would offer, we would be expanding a lot of what's offered in right now in the Total Experience Learning Center. And this includes cell culture facilities and advanced imaging microscope and opportunities that where we can create laboratories and arts spaces and creative spaces that are safe for students in middle and high school, as well as useful to those who are really scientists and starting their businesses. In addition, we imagine 2 incubators, a high-tech materials incubator and a life sciences incubator. And this is not just a business development platform. This complements some of the other business incubators in the area by offering the opportunity for those who want to develop their science and tech ideas to have a space to bring those ideas and the proof of concept to fruition. So the closest incubator here in Reading is actually King of Prussia. So this would bring these incubators here into our own city and our own county. We would also move some of our innovation and design, our creative programs of fashion and music industry studies to this Innovation and Design Center, and perhaps bringing opportunities again for this space for people to live, work, learn, and play. So really thinking about the camp building in phase, as we've imagined phase 1, we would be building the high science and tech incubators and a couple of additional Total Experience Learning laboratories. And we have received a $3 million RACP and $3 million in appropriations to begin the fundraising for phase 1 of this renovation. So that is the introduction to the Innovation Corridor, imagining again this sense of place in Northeast Reading, Pennsylvania, that is an ecosystem for creativity and innovation where the members of our community can live, work, learn, and play. This partnership doesn't happen, this work doesn't happen without strong partnerships. And so we are partnering with Habitat for Humanity to really make those livable communities. And Dave, I'm going to pass it back to you to introduce Tim.
Great, thank you, Jackie. So as you mentioned, part of the idea here is to make this a place that people want to live. And Tim Daly from Habitat and Humanity is going to talk about some of the work they're doing, some of which was just featured in the Reading Eagle this morning. So Tim, turn it over to you.
Good afternoon. Iris, you're going to be doing the PowerPoint, I'm guessing.
Yes, she is.
Okay, good. But thank you for the opportunity. And I think what Adele is doing and Jackie, I think it's phenomenal to hear. It's a great opportunity to see what the future is going to be looking like educationally for a lot of students and teachers as well. And what I saw with Habitat is I always think of us as how can we be a resource to the things that are going on in this community. And so what I started to think about many, many months ago was the idea that when Jen Murray and I were talking, the new school going up at 9th and Douglas, and Adele and I were having a conversation, and she was informing me about, the STEM work that's being done out there. What I saw in my role was that there was this gap of land called Northeast Reading that had a dense population of people, had a dense population of housing stock. And I thought, well, between those two, educational communities, they are based in neighborhoods. And they exist today. The housing stock is such. However, what was missing was there's no neighborhood culture. There is too much of a disproportionate ratio to renter versus homeowner. There's not an opportunity because of that nomadic kind of population that they can't put roots down, and they can't really engage in all that this community has to offer, such as the educational components that both the Reading School District and Albright College are going to provide. And that also includes the idea that there's going to be a need for teachers. There's going to be a need for students to want to, and families to be close to that education, the walkability of it. So as you see in that first slide, my role, as I see it, to complement what's happening in this area and in innovation corridor is to reinvest into this community. And the important thing here, next slide, is that with Habitat, as far as being a nonprofit and a housing component, I think there's a misconception about who we are, and especially as a resource to this community. And those two things that you see right there are critical to our mission. We are affordable workforce housing. We are really not the answer for homeless or very poverty situations, but for that component of workforce that's out there, basically, we provide the opportunity for that housing and also to create neighborhoods so that they're clean and safe for these families to live and grow. And so we promote intentionally neighborhood engagement. So that's really who we want to be. And we think that this area is flush with that population. Go ahead. The next slide kind of indicates, well, not kind of, it does indicate where Innovation Corridor resides. It gives you an opportunity to see that it's not a small portion of the city, it's quite a substantial part of the city. And it's going to encompass, again, at the top, you'll see the one end, and at the bottom, you'll see the other end. So it blends the college atmosphere to the secondary education component and everything in between. Our goal, Habitat's goal, is to provide enough stability and affordability so that this becomes a destination location for families who see a unique opportunity that both educational institutions are providing. That red dot in the middle is 11th and Pike Playground, and I will tell you why it's there. Go ahead, Iris. The issue is, why this location? Why is Habitat getting involved? Well, my belief is that we want to start where there's elements of strength, there's elements of potential. And we believe that, again, there's 2 points of educational opportunity. There's an availability of dense housing. Habitat represents a blight reduction which has been an elusive kind of social ill to cure over the past several decades. And the workforce housing of $18 to $28 an hour employee is exactly the wheelhouse of homeowner that we're looking for. I will say this, nationally right now, 1 in 8 households are spending more than 50% of their monthly income for their housing. And the population that I just described are the hardest hit by 47% of that number. So we need to be able to afford this type of employee the opportunity to create some stability in their life and to mandate the terms of their own future on their terms. And we want to create a destination location. The reason we picked this or it was such of an interest to me, is because of the fact that you do have 11th and Pike Playground. That's been a mecca of recreation since the dawn of time. And so it's something that the people in this area really understand, has been there. It's been part of a gathering area. It's a recreation component. It's a stone's throw from a library. And there's several educational, you have Northeast Middle School, Reading High School, you have 13th and Union Elementary School. There's a lot of strengths that are already there that if we can provide the glue with stability of housing and home ownership, I think that we're going to be able to really at least have an impact on the success that these educational institutions are going to have. Next slide, please. Our goal is to look beyond the house. I don't look to the house and put a homeowner in it and walk away. I look to where, almost like a pool shooter, what are my next 5 shots? What do I need to do in order for that family to survive? So I can't just walk away after that. I've got to think about, where do they go to get their haircut? Where do they go to get educated? Where do they go to just gather? As a kid that grew up in the city, and Adele and I have had these conversations any number of times, we share the same history. We know what it's like to walk everywhere, to be, reliant on the ability to have something close by that's a real part of who you're going to be in the future, and maybe more importantly, what kind of roots you're going to grow in your community. So we look to go beyond the house. And also, we do want to impact the social determinants of health. And I won't go into great detail with that, but it's becoming an even more popular statement to make, because when you think about the outcomes of education, you think of the stability of employment and the opportunity for families to live a healthier and more independent lifestyle. It all starts with the ability to go into the same house, the same location, turn the same doorknob for a longer period of time than what's being experienced now. So the housing stability, be it rent or be it home ownership, but the combination of getting those ratios a little bit more evenly and put them into the neighborhood culture, the science research will tell you that you're going to experience a lot of other successful outcomes over time. So that is who we are, and intentionally what we're going to continue to be. I will tell you this. Next slide, please. We do know some things about when Habitat gets in the neighborhood. Every house we do creates 2.48 jobs somewhere in the construction continuum. So we're a job creator. So the more we do, the more we're going to be able to do that. We generate property taxes over 30-year mortgages. Keep in mind, our families don't get anything for nothing. They work for it, and they take out a 30-year mortgage on a fixed rate of interest. This is, again, workforce housing. For every dollar that's invested by us, 69% of it goes, 65, I believe, goes back in, 69, excuse me, goes back into the local economy. We know that the realty community has said that when Habitat is in the neighborhood, property values can go up as much as 7%. Kids in schools, in an owner-occupied environment, because of that stability, they're doing better in math and reading. And so, the reduction of program dependency has been shown by Habitat that use on various families goes down dramatically after 5 years. So we know this to be a fact. So we know the kind of impact that we can have, and we want to continue to do that. And with that, again, my role, Habitat's role, is how may we help you? And that's the question that I posed to Jen Murray. That's the question I posed to Jackie and Adele, and they took me up on it. And so we're looking to be able to have that impact as we move forward. So thank you for your time.
Tim, can I add to your presentation there quick? And yes, as Tim mentioned, we've known each other for many, many, many decades. So that when we started to talk about what Tim could do, what we saw happening in the world of education with the teacher shortage, administrator shortage, and we thought, how could we make this the most attractive area, environment, again, ecosystem for educators to want to be here. And that means not just giving them the education and providing them support in their job, but they need those life supports as well. So imagine, as Tim was saying, through this innovation corridor, being able to renovate homes. And as our teachers graduate from our new School of Educational Innovation, that they can move right into a renovated Habitat home, become a homeowner, and it changes their financial situation for life with that one step. And how can we support them in doing that, and then get them the jobs in the Reading district that they're residing in, or Berks County schools, and then support them through their career. Almost a teacher village mentality in parts of the corridor. So again, thank you, Tim, for your amazing partnership and putting this vision together.
And let me add to that, Adele. And I want to thank Tim too for an amazing partnership, but I also want to harken back, Tim, to your presentation to the College Heights Community Council, because it's not just starter homes that we're talking about here. The opportunity, one of the distinctives, I think, for Northeast Reading is not just these starter homes for that Habitat is working to build for people. But once they develop that equity in a home, once they have established that stability, 5 or 6 or 7 years in, they have the opportunity to move up, because the houses are right here in the same neighborhood in College Heights, and this will increase the property values across the entire. They don't need to move out to Wyomissing or somewhere else to find better housing. It will be right here where they can move up and create stronger equity in their homes as they continue to grow and build.
Yes, thank you, Tim. It's a very interesting partnership to have you working with Albright on this. I'm going to now introduce a newer partner to this endeavor, Steve Geringer from Neighborhood Housing Services, who is going to talk about an innovative thing that they're doing to help support this innovation corridor. So Steve, to you.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm going to share my screen here quickly with the PowerPoint. So hope everybody can see that. As having been a former banker, one of the concerns that I've had throughout the years is many banks will only take on a certain amount of risk based upon what they perceive to be either impactful or from a safety perspective as far as assets that they're going to hold in their portfolio. Everybody knows the ills of 2008 and prior to that, and there were some terrible things done to homeowners as far as subprime loans, liar loans, fog the mirror loans, that type of thing, which obviously has no place in any community, let alone some of the marginalized communities that we have here in the city of Reading. So the only reason I'm here today is just to provide access to a program that I created right after COVID. What we found was, on top of, the standard socioeconomic challenges of COVID, the lockdown, There were folks, obviously, that lost jobs, lost family members, were incapacitated by the disease, and needed upgrades, repairs to their property, and also debt consolidation. So I'm not here to really talk about the debt consolidation side of the program, but I created something called the My Life program, which is a true to its mission, subprime product. And what it does is, for those folks that Habitat is working with, either remodeling, rebuilding, or constructing the new homes, at some point, they may want to do more things with the property to improve it. And that's where this program comes in. So this is just a tool in the toolbox. Should somebody need to have further financial assistance in adding value to their property. So the My Life program talks about the eligible properties. The minimum loan size is $3,500 to $30,000. And the real key is that we will loan up to 125% of the value of the property. So it's a second position lien, or it can be a third position lien, depending upon whether the person has one or two mortgages against the property. And it goes down as low as a 620 credit score. Depending upon credit score, that's how we risk rate the program. You have a choice of 5, 7, 10, 15, or 20 years. All we ask is some of the basic requirements that you'll see with any home equity line of credit. But again, our process is nowhere near as draconian. As a nonprofit, and we portfolio, or we keep our loans, so we're able to work with clients that your traditional lending partners are not able to assist. And so the reason that I brought this up is, when I found out what Tim was going to be doing, there's always a need to have extra capital in a community, whether it's for beautification, renovation, or just adding on things that may be beyond the scope of what Habitat or another developer might be doing. So again, we created this program to help folks initially who were coming out of the COVID situation. A lot of them were living on credit cards, and that's where the debt consolidation aspect of it came in. And the program on the consolidation side would actually allow you to have 24 months of interest only. And the reason behind that is to help you get back on track. Based upon our statistical data as a HUD counseling agency, traditionally it takes 18 to 24 months for an event, a life event that knocks someone off track, to get back on track and to get the cash flow that they need for their monthly budget. And this is just one way of helping folks with a two-prong attack, whether it's upgrades to your current property or you need debt consolidation. And again, today I'm here just to talk about the renovation and upgrade portion. So I just want to thank everybody for your time today. You can feel to reach out, contact me as we go through the process. But we're more than willing to assist in this, this very impactful initiative. So I thank you.
Thank you, Steve. Really a really good add-on to a really interesting program. One of the key factors in creating this corridor was the Reading School District and its activity. And so, Dr. Murray, if you don't mind me singling you out, do you want to talk about what the school district is doing and how that fits into this?
Sure. So with our ESSERS money that we were given a few years ago, we needed to target certain grade level schools to lower capacity in our buildings. As we know, the high school is very large. It serves over 4,500 students, mostly in the main campus, but there are 3 other campuses. And with some community input and stakeholder input, the listening sessions that we conducted really wanted to see students pulled out of the high school to make a smaller learning community. And a lot of the student interest at that time when we conduct, and still now today, were really in the STEM fields. And this particular building is really created with student interest in mind, and their careers of what Berks County businesses need in the future. Not in competition with our CTC. We value our CTC programs, and we are continue to build in conjunction with their programming. But this school is going to be a little bit different than any other school. We're very excited about. So a lot of our teachers, since Albright Total Experience Learning opened, we have been sending cohorts of teachers through their training. And we have hundreds of teachers that have been trained in this methods all throughout our buildings. So this is really going to be a really group of that kind of total experience learning in this building for students at the high school level. We plan to serve grades 10 through 12. The building will be completed in the 25-26 school year. If all goes well with construction, which you can see that they're working hard every day there. They have a huge crane in there. But we're really excited to look at teaching and learning in a very innovative way, and really do something different for the kids in our community. So we're excited about that.
That's great news. And it's a significant thing for the school district and for the city of Reading as well.
Yeah.
We already have somebody who's in this meeting who has talked about the impact that this has had on her life. And I'm going to single her out. Yesenia, do you want to talk really quickly about why this whole project is so important to you? I'm sorry to call on you, but feel free to talk.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Perfect. I just think this is amazing. As a person who grew up in Reading and lived in the Northeast area, I think this is all great. I was able to, because of neighborhood housing services, buy my first house 6 years ago. I live over at 11th and Amity, which is right over at the 11th and Pike Playground. My son is in the Total Experience Learning Program. This is his second year. He loves it. He did the summer activities last year, and it's absolutely amazing. And I'm currently a student at Albright in the master's program in education. So I think this is all great. I work for the United Way of Berks County, and we are in a program right now with the Harwood Institution trying to do different things in the Northeast area. So this just getting started is amazing, and having all of you here to do great things in our city is just great and shows how great Reading is. So I thank you all who have helped me to get where I am, and can't wait to see what else is coming.
Well, thank you. And it's nice to see this is having an impact already. So that's really, really great. Steve, question for you. We did a program about a couple of years ago that talked about Berks County having one of the poorest level rates of approval of small home improvement loans. So the project that you're doing sounds like it's really significant in terms of trying to address that challenge here in Berks County. You talk a little bit more about what motivated you to do this.
Sure. Well, I came from a small community bank, and you're exactly right. There's different ways to get around not wanting to do something. Again, the banking industry is highly regulated. You have to be careful in what you're doing. There's something called the Community Reinvestment Act. And my organization is one of 247 NeighborWorks America organizations. And they were congressionally appropriated and created in 1977 to address affordable housing. My nonprofit provides down payment assistance and closing cost assistance, second mortgages, to help folks cover the gap, the affordability gap, by not having the sufficient funds for down payment or closing costs. Plus, as a HUD counseling agency, we provide counseling, budget and credit counseling for everyone so that when they get into their home, they know exactly what to expect. When you look at some of the more challenging cities, you know, and as Tim can attest to, the housing stock is 75, 80, 100 years old. So folks are buying homes. They're not oftentimes, particularly in the city or, you know, other cities like Philadelphia, Pittsburgh, Harrisburg, Lancaster, York, it goes on and on, Allentown. The properties are going to need some repair work. And the lenders, the banks, traditionally will not go above 85 to maybe in some circumstances 90%. During COVID, we saw them pull back to 75%, you know, particularly at a time, as I was going over in my prior presentation, where folks were struggling not only with debt consolidation, but also with, you know, simple things. I can tell you at least 10 or 11 people that I know that had the issue with the blood clotting and needed some type of ambulatory assistance, whether it was a ramp or, you know, different upgrades to bathroom or shower facilities or tub facilities. So we created this program to bridge the gap between what the banks are not willing to do and what is truly needed in the communities. And we've done it in a way so that it's not predatory. It doesn't take advantage. There's no, you know, goofy little, you know, variable rates and prepayment penalties and all the horror stories that you heard about in 2008 and prior. So it's a legitimate fixed rate, fixed term mortgage. And we decided to roll this thing out 2 years ago, and it took off like wildfire. And there was a definite need in the community. And so nonprofits like mine and Habitat, we see the needs in the community that, say, on Tim's side, traditional developers don't want to tackle. And on my side, traditional banks and credit unions don't want to tackle. So we're filling that space. And to your point, yes, certain communities with the aged stock of housing are not palatable for certain lenders and certain banks and certain credit unions. It's just what it is. So, you know, we've always been happy to partner with Habitat to try to make as much impact as we can, not only here in the city of Reading, but also the county of Berks. And we've been so blessed. We've been able to push these programs out now across the entire state. And so we have a statewide lending organization called the Pennsylvania Home Lending Collaborative, which is basically just the lending arm of NHS. So yeah, it's a definite need. And the unfortunate part is I'd like to see more being done by city council and also by the county commissioners to make these types of funds available because, again, these properties are wearing out every single day and they need upgrades and they need assistance. And I know Tim's working on a program with the county. The unfortunate part, last week on Wednesday, we were down at Capitol Hill, talked to our two state senators, Casey and Fetterman. Believe it or not, they do understand the graveness of this affordable housing crisis. And we felt very confident that we're going to be able to move the needle at a statewide level through our two senators. So hopefully there'll be more funding coming available to do wonderful programs like what we're proposing here. And then from my little nonprofit, the little bit that we can add, you know, as an extra benefit, it's all that more impactful for us.
Thank you, Steve. Adele, you mentioned that research and development and outside of State College, Pittsburgh and Philadelphia was really minuscule, almost disappearing. And it talked about the importance of intellectual property. Could you talk a little bit more about that? And how does Albright, which is not the University of Pennsylvania or the University of Pittsburgh or Penn State, figure it's going to play in this equation?
Well, that's what all of us need to figure out in these spaces in between, right? If we're not one of the big dogs with the huge endowments and the huge facilities, how do we figure out really unique, creative ways to help the talent that we have? Because one thing we do know is that State College, Pittsburgh, and Philadelphia aren't the only areas in the space in Pennsylvania that have talented individuals, right? So how do we reach them? How do we find them? And I think figuring out for us the support systems that the creative individuals will need before they get to college was an important step. I think, setting up these environments when they're in their classrooms in K-12 education is a different way to kind of serve this population. I think it's something that makes Reading and Berks very unique right now. You do see it in other places across the country. You always see those on the national news, a student coming up with an invention idea here and there, but they're not really concentrated in one area. So that, at least in my opinion, is what makes this very different. It's why across the state, even from the Pennsylvania Department of Education, total experience learning is getting the attention it is. A piece of that is how we can help the educators and students in the schools, public and private, that exist. But the other piece is, for 4 years now, we're up to 12 high school students getting intellectual property patents. And that's a pretty significant number. So something is different in what we're doing here. And Jackie, I know you'll have some additions to my comments.
No, you said it very well.
Thanks.
I'm going to call on her right now. Jackie, you had mentioned some of the types of businesses were not the ones that, when people think about innovation corridors and incubators, they think about, who's going to be doing scientific research but you mentioned fashion design, you mentioned music, you mentioned a brewery. Are they target areas for economic growth in this region as much as creating the patentable devices?
I think they are. Fashion and music industry studies are two of our most popular, I will say, besides business majors. And both of these majors combine the kind of creative side of either fashion or music with the real world skills of business training and business classes. So it's an interdisciplinary mix. And what this allows students to do is not necessarily, some of them definitely go into fashion or go into music. And some of them, there's a couple like in the area. One of the bands recently featured on WITF is one of the band that came out of our music industry studies called Hot Dad Calendar. So yes, these people are living and working and learning right here in our county and developing their opportunities because we're helping them to learn to be creative and to develop their own, not just creativity, but how do they turn their ideas into a business that helps to support them. So I think there are opportunities here for individual entrepreneurs if we can provide them. Not necessarily, as you might think of, a big booming, technology or manufacturing, but our economy in America has always run on the small entrepreneurs, and helping the small entrepreneurs to build their own businesses that they imagine has got to be a part of what we do in economic development.
And I will add on to what Jackie just said. I think the other thing that really makes this different are when you're talking about high science and tech in material science and life science, there are really specialized labs you need to work in to make that kind of intellectual property. It's extremely unique. You need advanced equipment, and then you need the individuals that know how to operate that equipment. So if you're starting all that training in the K-12 system, you are, kind of helping people come along in the science and tech industry versus trying to figure it all out once they get to college and then trying to create. So it starts the whole process much earlier.
One of the things that I think is interesting is some of the partnerships are, not the sort of big deal partnerships that you might think about. I want to ask both you, Adele and Jackie, to talk really briefly about the relationship that Albright has gotten with Antietam School District because of the problems they were going through, which is not one of the highest achieving school districts in the area. And also about your partnerships with the Reading School Districts, which I think both of those partnerships show the power of empowering and engaging people. So really quickly, if you want to talk about that.
Jump in, Adele.
Sure. Yes, and I left some comments in the chat about Antietam as well. That was something where it was a 2 to 3 week turnaround from someone, the district needing some help and us putting some supports in place, and actually an area on our campus where they could have their entire 6th grade on the Albright campus for a year while they were trying to figure out how to get all their students back to their district in spaces that could exist. So, that the academy they ran here was really successful. We were able to get some grant money for both Reading School District and Antietam with this in place this year to pay for half of the tuition for all the grad courses and the TXPL training for all of these educators. It was a significant investment from the National Board of Medical Examiners behind. They considered the city of Reading, both Antietam and Reading School District. So, I think being an anchor institution means that when people come to you for help, trying to figure out the ways you can help, and that was something we could do this year.
Well, I think we've reached the end of our time. I do want to say we've talked about this being the innovation corridor of Northeast Reading, and it's significant of all what's happening. Part of the innovation, I think, is the ability to create partnerships that are unusual. A relationship between Habitat for Humanity and a college like Albright is really unusual and very significant. And I think says something about the potential and the power for this neighborhood. So I want to thank you all for this great work. It's very, very important for this community. Thank you, Reading School District, for what you're doing to help anchor it. And thank you, everybody, for joining us. I hope you'll come back and join us for some of our future events. We're doing one next week on updating people about passenger rail service in Berks County in the city of Reading. So hope you'll join us for that. We will be sending this video out to everybody who registered. And I do want to thank you again, team, for a terrific time. Very, very stimulating. I've got some more questions that I might share with you guys offline, but we'll do that. Thank you, everybody, for joining us.
Thank you, Dave, and we welcome your questions.